hit this. Danger hides in the stars. This is the world of Jason of Star Command, a space-age soldier of fortune determined to stop the most sinister force in the universe, Dragos, master of the cosmos. Aiding Jason in his battle against evil is a talented team of experts, all working together in a secret section of Space Academy. Jason of Star Command. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the stream. Just doing my funny bit there for the opening instead of doing a video. So I'm going to bring out my guests, and then we're going to start the show here. So first up to bat is WillyP. Welcome.
Hello. That made me hot. That was hot. It's like a songbird. I'm telling
there
you.
you go. Yeah, I found that online. I had to download that and do that because that's the opening scene with the title comes on and stuff. So I thought it would be a good opening.
It was perfect.
Yeah, there you go. I'm glad it got you all hot and bothered. Next on the panel is the one and only Cual Birab.
Oh,
how's it going, sir?
I'm good.
Good.
I'm good. So what we're talking about again?
Oh, you know what we're talking about. Jason of Star Command.
Jason! Yes.
Yeah, good old
confession
Jason
time,
Star
boys.
Command. Uh-oh.
I have a confession.
Oh, no.
Okay, so when I got the notice for the stream, I just quickly glanced it, and I thought you said Jason and the Argonauts.
No.
And all right,
No.
so I know. We're starting camps. Yeah, we're doing this. There we go. Hello, boys. How's it going?
Please continue.
So late last night, I was hanging out with the wife. Kids went down to sleep finally, and I was like, let me check the stream, and it was fuck, Jason of Star Command, and I said, what the fuck is Jason of Star Command, right? and so I start doing a little research on like 1978. I said, Jesus, I was still in my father in 1978, and so I did about a 3-episode rush last night, with me and the wife, and then we ended up in the whole loop of the things. We ended up watching what was it? Space Cadet? Is it Space Cadet? It has the guy from Land of the Lost. Damn it.
Lost in Space?
Yeah, Lost in Space.
Space Academy. That was
Space Academy.
Yeah.
And I started watching Space Academy because it was like close to it, and I just got in this deep hole of 1970s weird sci-fi. So yeah, I'll be ready to. Wow, we'll talk.
Well, yeah, I did I did a lot of research this week and did some deep dives in some of the into some of the characters and their actors that portrayed them. So it should be very interesting. We're going to have a good little slideshow here, and we have Abby somebody in the chat. Where the hell's the Time Prophet at? What's he doing?
Oh, where is he at?
Still working on his thing, I'm sure. So yeah, we're going to get this going here. So we're going to pull the slideshow back up, and if it decides it wants to work, there we go. So Jason of Star Command. Let me grab my notes here. Jason of Star Command is a 1978-79 live-action television series produced by Filmation. The series revolves around the exploits of a space adventurer named Jason, portrayed by actor Craig Littler, and his colleagues, including Professor E.J. Parsafoot and the pocket robot Wiki. The series also stars Sid Haig as the evil Dragos, and in the first season, James Doohan was part of the cast. And
Yeah, it was
So
really
yeah,
weird.
Filmation. And another side note is that this was the last live action production by Filmation was Jason of Star Command. They had done several before this. Obviously, the Space Academy that Willie was watching. That's what the Jason of Star Command was spun off of. So we're going to go into that. But there was several before that, in revolving around kids television programming in the 1970s here in the States. So it was quite interesting time in the 70s. But this was the last one that Filmation did as far as live action. After that, they didn't do any more live action. Now they're obviously notably brought us He-Man and the Masters of the Universe.
I recognize some of the sound
Filmation,
effects. Yeah.
yeah. Oh, yeah. They used
Yeah.
almost every sound effect that they used in that was sound effects that they used when they did the cartoon Star Trek series. See, Filmation produced that as well.
By
So-
any chance, do you know if they did the animated Flash Gordon series?
Yes,
I thought so.
Yes.
Because I recognize a lot of the spaceship sound effects
Yes.
too.
yes,
Mhm.
yes. They did several cartoon series. Flash Gordon
I
was
missed
one of
those. I
them.
missed those.
Yeah, good stuff. And
Wookie,
so
you
this
gotta
is
get yourself
the,
a bell. You gotta get the bell. Next
The
time
bell?
you do a stream, you gotta get a bell. Every time somebody gets an answer right, you gotta hit
ding
the bell.
ding.
Yes, you have to. We gotta get a bell for
That's
the next
right.
stream.
What do I win?
That's right, Johnny.
Perfect.
That's right.
Go. Sorry. And go. Back to the action.
So
Go.
what we have is this is just a cast photo of the main characters.
Mhm.
And as you can see, we got Jimmy Doohan here on the left in the blue outfit. So Jimmy Doohan played in this for the first 16 episodes, which is the first season. And then
Yeah.
he had to leave at the end of the season because they were doing production of Star Trek: The Motion Picture.
Right.
And we'll get a little bit more into that as we go. But it was a spinoff of a show called Space Academy. Space Academy starred Jonathan Harris, who is best known for his role as Dr. Smith in the 1960s sci-fi
All right.
classic Lost in Space that was an Irwin Allen production. And there's quite a story about that, and I have that here. So they tried to get this was made in 1970. So Space Academy ran from September of 1977 to December of 1977. There was only 15 episodes. So basically it's 15 weeks of original shows. After that, it did go into syndication alongside or with Jason of Star Command. They did reruns. And then later on into the 80s as well, they would show it on different programs. So a lot of production companies had their what they called cartoon or blocks of programming that they would have designed for their respective Saturday morning viewing for the whatever cable network they were contracted with. And Filmation and Lou Scheimer Productions, well, Lou Scheimer was the one of the creators of Filmation. They had a contract with CBS. So all these programs were pretty much on CBS. Space Academy, Jason Star Command, the Flash Gordon series, and others were all on CBS. But they tried to get Jonathan Harris to reprise his role from the Space Academy show onto the Jason Star Command because Jason Star Command was a spin-off of Space Academy, and they used every single prop and the same costumes, and they did make some differences in how they filmed some of the props and some of the vehicles and things like that. They used more up-to-date cinematography and cameras to film some of the miniatures and stuff like that. But interesting thing was Jonathan Harris was supposed to be playing Commander Gampu. That was the character that he played in Space Academy. He was supposed to be playing that on Jason of Star Command. And it was supposed to be a spin-off of the series Space Academy, as I said before. In a personal interview, Harris related that while the stories about his demand for higher pay was not wrong, but also not completely accurate. So, according to Harris, Filmation planned to film the series like an old movie serial, with each episode running about 15 minutes. Space Academy was a 30-minute or a half-hour series, and Harris was asked to reprise his role as Gampu for half the money he was paid on Space Academy. He felt just because they cut the runtime in half, the producers felt they could get him for half price, basically. So when Lou Scheimer said he would have no problem getting Harris to come back because he was friends with him, this meant that he thought he could con Harris into taking less money and save on the production costs. Harris refused to take the part because of the pay cut. Subsequently, they brought in James Doohan and to replace that character. And James Doohan's character was Commander Carnarvon.
Let's just call him Mr. Canada.
Yeah. When I was a kid and I saw this, I was watching the show when they were running this stuff. So I was like 77 to 79. I was watching this all the time. Saturday morning cartoons and shows were big.
Yeah.
I saw James Doohan. I'm thinking it's the Scotty Show. Because I watched all the freaking original series back in the 70s. So I watched them all. I watched the Filmation cartoons. I got action figures based on the Filmation cartoons myself. So yeah, I knew it as the Scotty Show. It was a fun show, but they brought him in to replace Jonathan Harris. So, and this is, of course, this is Jonathan Harris here, and Cual, you've recognized these uniforms because you saw them all. The sets, everything were identical. Down to the fact that Jonathan Harris is wearing the same costume type that James Doohan was wearing.
Were you supposed to watch Space Academy as well?
No. I was just kind of giving us a little backstory to.
I did. I watched them both. So
yeah, he did. Yeah, Willie did. So the main character was played by actor Craig Littler. He played Jason. He played Jason in all 28 episodes. He was a good actor. He played the role very, very well.
I liked it. Yeah.
He was a character actor, but this was more of this is probably, in my opinion, probably the biggest major role that I've ever searched for to see that he's played. So, I mean, he's played other stuff, bits, parts, and stuff like that, other TV shows, but nothing really as a starring role per se, like he did in Jason. And then we have the young lady, Susan O'Hanlon. She played Captain Nicole Davidoff. Now, sorry
very
about
lovely,
that, guys.
Very lovely.
So, in doing research on finding information on her, excuse me there, guys, I find out that she has a name change. So her name on the show was Susan O'Hanlon. If you look up the cast, it's under Susan Pratt. So I did find out that she was married for a few years while this was running, while this was on. So this could be her married name. Pratt might be a maiden name. It might be a new married name. But anyway, there was kind of a confusion. I was going, wait a minute, who's this Pratt lady? I'm looking for O'Hanlon. So that's kind of where that came from. But she played the captain, like I said, Nicole Davidoff, for 16 episodes, and she did not come back for season 2, unfortunately. Same as James Doohan. So her and Doohan left the series. And then we have the actor Charlie Dell, who's a noted character actor as well. He's played Professor E.J. Parsifoot, and he was in both seasons, every episode as well. Kind of like the comic relief.
Yeah,
it's kind of like the comic relief, really.
I was going to say that slides from season 2. I remember that.
Yeah. But it's the only one I could find that has his name on it.
All right.
So I tried to find the best I could. It was a lot of, we're going to get into some interesting stuff here as we go along. So, and then of course, last but not least, we have James Doohan, Scotty playing Commander Carnarvon.
It was
And
weird
again,
hearing him speak normal.
yeah, I know. And I have at watching this as an adult because I've gone through the first season twice this week.
Okay.
I've actually watched both seasons, but I have to say, as an adult, I'm really, and Cruel, you might back me up on this because you've seen them. I would have to say that I was not thoroughly impressed with his performance in the role. And I say this because to me, it appeared that he was basically just going through the motions in most of the, especially the first half of the season or first half of episodes, in my opinion. After that, he seemed like, he was basically the first episodes, it seemed like he didn't really give a shit.
Yeah. Well,
he was just there to get a paycheck and whatever. Yeah. But then I think he improved his game because at that time, later in the season, actually a month later, that he was starting production on Star Trek. So you kind of see the difference where he's just starting out. It's kind of like, okay, yeah, I'll do it. I'm going to get some scratch. And don't get me wrong. I mean, he's a great actor, but it just seemed like in the first half of the season, he phoned it in.
Yeah. I mean, on that subject, I mean, I love the guy, but I actually think the commander in season 2 is better.
Yeah, we're going to get to him.
He's a more
Abby,
military
someone
guy.
in the chat says hello. Abby, someone, how's it going? Find the time prophet, damn it. Where's he at? But yeah, we're going to get to him. I don't have a lot of deep information. I just have the general information on him. But I mean, James Doohan was the name. I mean, because still he was very popular at that time, even before the movie came out, or before they started production on that. So, and he knew Lou Scheimer and Filmation because he did the voice work for the cartoon Star Trek series.
Right.
That Filmation produced. So that's how Scheimer was able to get him to come on board. For the season. So, but yeah, that was him. And then we have the one, the only Sid Haig.
Oh, he just ate that.
Sid Haig. And here's the thing. Sid Haig has a connection to 2 franchises from the 1960s that are still revered to this day.
Buck
he
Rogers.
Has guest appearances on 2 major, one sci-fi and one comic book franchise.
From the 60s.
I'll let you both take a guess. Take a wild guess what Sid Haig was in. He was in both of them the same year.
Okay. Well, I know he was in Buck Rogers with...
yes, he was in Buck Rogers, 25th Century.
Flight of the War Witch, which also had Julie Newmar.
Which it actually, and I think that actually was produced after Battlestar Galactica, which would be after he finished this.
He was in a couple of episodes of Buck Rogers. He was in...
Yep.
Played
but
one of the
this was
thugs.
In the 1960s.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Yeah.
I'm going with Batman. Detective Comics.
You're not wrong there.
I was about to
say Sid Haig, and I'll do this first since he brought up Batman. Yeah.
I've got the 60s show, so I probably saw him in it. Yeah.
1966 episode, the first season of, ironically, the first season of Batman was also the first season of Star Trek. They both started in 1966. So Sid Haig was on an episode, maybe more than one, but because I didn't really go there. Once I found the Star Trek stuff, I just, whatever. Because he was in an episode of Star Trek the same year.
Was
he? He played a henchman for the villain, King Tut. And King Tut was
in Batman.
The series of Batman. Yeah, he was a henchman of King Tut. But he was also in an episode of Star Trek in 1966, first season, called Return of the Archons. And his role was one of the first lawgivers.
Was that him?
That's him right there.
Yeah,
that's
I remember the episode.
Him. Yep. He actually signed. There's a copy you can see that he signed. This picture. He signed it Sig Haig.
Nice.
Haig. Yeah. So, unfortunately, he passed. He passed in 2019. Sid did.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
again,
that's
like
right.
he was a notable character actor.
Mm-hmm. He was one of
Awesome
the.
character actor. Very, very. He just assumed the role so well, and
Mhm.
whatever he did, like I do remember him playing in the Buck Rogers series. He always played a heavy, he always played a bad guy, but
Yeah, yeah, he did. Yeah,
he
he.
also did a lot of B movies. He
Mm,
did movies, and some of like they were like quasi horror movies and things like that. And I
mhm.
believe his very last movie that he did was a Rob Zombie film called House of a Thousand Corpses. And he
Uh,
was a clown. He was dressed up as a freaking clown with his beard on, but he was dressed up as a clown.
I
Great
think it
movie.
And
was.
there's pictures of him with Rob Zombie and stuff like that.
I've only seen the Devil's Rejects. There's three films, I think. There's
Yeah,
House of a Thousand Corpses, Devil's
yeah,
Rejects, and then Free from Hell.
yeah.
He was
He was in
able.
he was in all three of those. Yeah, I think. Yeah,
Yes, yeah.
if
Free
I
from Hell
remember those.
was the most recent one.
Yeah,
I do believe. I
whatever. Yeah,
haven't seen it.
but he died in 2019.
Sadly, yes.
Yeah, sadly, but and he got all kinds of different bit work from different television shows in the 70s, I'm
Yeah.
sure, and 80s. Playing a heavy or something like that. On
A Team. I'm
TV. But
sure he was in the A Team, and
more than likely,
he was one of the mortuary heavy guys from Diamonds Are Forever.
oh yeah, that's right, he
Yeah,
was. Holy shit, I forgot about that.
yeah. Always remember that one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good movie. But
Yeah.
yeah, he was great in this role as Dragos.
Oh yeah.
And then this is a cast photo of the second season, and then they have him in there, plus the other two individuals that came on board to replace the two characters that left. So you have the new commanders, played by John Russell, and
Mm.
he played Commander. I believe it was Commander Strong or Stone, but they only mentioned his name once
Yeah, it's
in
just
the
the
first
commander after that.
episode. After that, they just referred to him as Commander. But John Russell is a veteran actor, like a veteran actor. He was doing westerns and stuff like that in the 50s and the 60s. Played other roles in movies, mostly westerns, I think. But he
Yeah,
had a
yeah.
lot of. I think he did some stage work too.
I
So he was very
recognized him.
grounded.
I recognized him instantly because I had just a couple of weeks ago I'd watched. I think it was The Critical Drinker talking about
Mhm.
Pale Rider, and he was Stockburn in Pale Rider.
Wow.
I was expecting Clint Eastwood to show up in this. I was disappointed. I think he was also in The Outlaws, Josie Wales as well.
More than likely, yep. I mean, yeah, he got around. He was a major veteran, even at that time. In 1978 when he came on production. So, good actor. And now I don't know a whole lot about this actress,
Hmm.
Tamara Dobson. She played a character Samantha, which started out in the first series. She played in the totality of the second season, all 12 episodes. Very strong actress,
I've seen her
very good
before somewhere.
character. Very good character. Yeah, she's done some. This picture is not that great because obviously it's a screenshot of someone's television
Oh,
and
okay.
whatever. Then they posted it on, on the internet. But um, I actually liked her in the first episode, but in subsequent episodes, I could tell that the writing just. And I know it's a kids show. It's not for adults
Yeah,
really. It's a kids show, so a lot of it's written basically down or simple for
yeah,
kids
yeah.
and stuff like that. So, but she was a great actress, and for the series, I think she did a really good job in her role. The thing is, I'm not too. The thing they didn't do in the second episode, was they didn't really explain why the uh, character of Captain Davidoff wasn't there, and
Hmm.
or why James Doohan's character left. All you see is the first episode where the new commander is coming on board, but you never know what happened to the Captain Davidoff, so you have no clue.
Yeah,
Um,
that's right. Yeah.
that's the only kind of like a plot hole I would say that there was. But no, this Tamara Dobson, she did a great thing. I know she was in several movies and different television shows and stuff. To her credit. So now this is the first season. And this young actress right here in the blue, she played, that's character is called Allegra, and it's played by Roseanne Catton.
Wow.
Roseanne Catton in 1978 was Playboy's Playmate of the Month.
I was just reading that.
September.
Wow,
For September
Can
1978.
you just get to the slide then? I mean, Jesus fucking Christ.
To the slide.
Yeah,
The
let's go.
slide-
You're going to mention it. Where's the slide? Let's go.
I was
Okay,
like 1
so
year old. I was
I'm
1 year
trying to-
old when that was. So
I'm
I'm
trying
never.
to tell you.
Well, now
a
you're
little
an
bit
adult
about
male. Let's get the slide
So,
going, Chief.
okay, hold
we
on.
can
a
talk
second.
about it
Let
with
me,
the slide.
Let me. No. Shut up.
Come on. Sorry.
Come on. Okay.
Yeah.
So there's
With
a
the
funny
slide now.
backstory to bringing her on. She did the photo shoot in September. Okay, she came out in the episode, the magazine issue in September of '78. So the filming for this was, they did most of the filming all at once, or really close to all together, because it was filmed as a serial type. So you had the beginning of one episode was a rehash of the episode previous, and the ending of that episode was a preview of the next episode. So they've had to film everything all at once. So they did production pretty quickly. So it was known when it got to them, when they were doing the shoots and stuff for her scenes and her episodes, it was already known she was in Playboy, even though they did it in
Alright.
September. So here's a little backstory about that. So now I'll go to the next slide here. It's just a general one. This is one of the first scenes we see her in.
Right.
So the issue of Playboy featuring guest star Roseanne Catton as Playmate of the Month was published during the filming of the first season in summer of '78. Now, producer Lou Scheimer was in a panic. He was worried that CBS would raise hell about a nude centerfold appearing in a Saturday morning children's series, although CBS couldn't give a shit. To goad Scheimer, stop motion animators did a prank on him. They cut a small photo of the nude Catton out of Playboy and inserted it into a special effects monster shot. And they did get the expected panic reaction from Scheimer. So they did a practical joke because there was a monster in this.
Yeah.
I don't have that. But actually, I think I do have that shot later on in the presentation. But yeah, that was funny. So they dressed her down and they gave her like hardly any makeup. They did that on purpose to dress her down. You see this robe thing goes all the way to the floor, basically. Long, fluffy sleeves. The outfit, a little bit better shot on the old one here. So you see this here, long, high collar.
Yeah.
They did her hair in a way because here's I don't think this is from Playboy, but this is a shot that I found of her because she's a model. But wait, there's more. There's this shot here, which is probably one of the ones that they used in Playboy, but it's not a complete nude, obviously.
Looks
She's
like you.
wearing clothing.
And that
So-
looks like my wife, God damn it. Can you move that?
Hang on a
please?
second.
Go along.
Wait,
God damn it.
now there's a shot. In the episode, she looks nothing like this in the face because what they did in makeup, they tried to play her down. And she looks like a kid. Now, she's a very short female. Now, I did find a picture that is probably the one they used, one of the ones they used in Playboy, and I can't show it here.
For obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. But you can tell that they were in a panic and they had to downplay her, you know, her makeup and stuff like that. So she doesn't hardly look anything like she really does. She's very short. She's a very short young lady. So I think Craig Littler was like 6 foot something
Well,
at the time, and yeah, so that's her. Yeah,
Bonnie woman.
Playboy Playmate of the Month, September 1978.
Hold on. What year?
1978, September 1978. She was
I was
the
1 year
Playboy of the
old.
Month. Playboy
She's
of the Month.
hot. Smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah, lovely.
So now we go to Julie
Oh.
Newmar. Now, Julie Newmar was in 2 episodes. I've only put this one picture up because it's the best one I could find on the internet of Jason Star Command. But yeah, Julie Newmar played a character called Queen Vanessa, who was a henchman, so to speak, of Drago.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and yeah, he's going back to John Russell here. John Russell played in Pale Rider.
Yeah,
Opposite Clint
Stockburn.
Eastwood. Yeah. So yeah, Julie Newmar, she played Queen Vanessa for 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Still looking just as good as she did back in the 1960s playing Catwoman, who I think she was the best Catwoman of all 3 that played Catwoman back in that time.
I agree.
Yeah, I mean Eartha Kitt was nice, but
Well, yeah,
and Lee Merriweather wasn't bad in the movie.
Lovely. Yeah.
But yeah, Julie Newmar was Catwoman as far as I'm concerned. Oh.
Just got that sexy voice, doesn't she?
She was it. Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, she played Queen Vanessa. Now, the funny thing is her henchman, the little dude, the character Bork, his name is Angelo Rosito, and he's been in film for a long time. He played the dude in Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. That was,
yes,
that's him sitting on top of the ogre dude that was beating everybody, killing everybody.
That's Master Blaster right there.
That's yes, I remember
Master
it now.
Blaster.
Yes.
I have to watch those again.
Right.
Thunderdome boys.
Methane. No, but he's actually a veteran actor of several movies. And I thought I'd put him in there because he was in the both episodes that he was with Julie Newmar's henchman. You see Julie Newmar's legs behind him there in this shot. But another veteran actor, a lot of veteran people in this. Even at that time, they were well known. Now this is season 2, and this is Queen Medusa, who played a henchman or sidekick, if you will, of Dragos. Played by actress Francine York, who obviously was a notable actress at that time. Now, I am not sure if she was supposed to be replacing Julie Newmar's role, because Julie Newmar played Queen Vanessa and she's Queen Medusa.
Yeah.
There is similarities in the costumes, but I don't know. But she was obviously in more episodes in the second season.
Yeah, a bit more rebellious.
Yes. Yeah, she had a flair to her, but as another veteran actress in here. Now we go on to the comic relief and sci-fi portion, if you will. So these are the 2 versions of WillyP. The one on the right is season 1. The one on the left is season 2. So the one on the right was basically spoke gibberish, sped up. And what that gibberish were basically cuts from an old show of I forgot the name of the show. But they used cuts of some line that they had in Filmation did, something that Filmation did years before. And so they took all these cuts, they sped them up, and that's what you were hearing, the gibberish that was being spoke by WillyP. So the second season, they redesigned WillyP and they gave WillyP a voice. And that voice was done by, I believe it was Lou Scheimer's wife. And if you listen carefully, it sounds almost like Orko from He-Man. If you listen carefully, it almost sounds like Orko from He-Man. So that's another curious, fun thing. But yeah. And then because they made it talk, so it actually had words and stuff, just not like weird scrambly whatever like the first season did. And then we have this is the Peepo, the robot, and obviously he was from Space Academy, and they brought him back in to Jason Star Command as kind of a connection to Space Academy and stuff like that, since Space Academy and Star Command were on the same asteroid. So they brought him in, and just as a connection there. These are two of the best pictures I could get of him at the time I was doing the research. And then this is the Space Academy / Star Command, and it's built on an asteroid. And they use the same prop from Star Command as they did for Jason. Pardon me, of Space Academy as they did for Jason Star Command. What they did was they just they used the same model and did reshoots with better cameras at different angles for all the models that they did on this. They didn't really redesign this at all. They just shot it from a different angle with different lighting and better cameras. So it's the same thing. And this is Drago's ship, and I like this thing. It's called the Dragon ship. And this thing looks menacing. And apparently it's supposedly been built on a asteroid as well, or whatever. A rock in space. It was cool. It looked mean. It looked like a monster.
It's better in season 1, I think. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I didn't like the one in season 2. This one was cool. This one, you knew this was evil when you saw it. You knew this was the bad guy. Okay, great, a great model and stuff. It was really neat. A really neat ship in season 1. Like I said, I didn't really care for the one in season 2. Now here's what we're talking about. Well, this was obviously Princess Allegra on the left, and in the middle there is a stop motion animation figurine that they were using. Now they did this a couple times. They did more in season 2, but it's kind of reminiscent of Ray Harryhausen stuff that you might have seen in Clash of the Titans and other things like that. But they were doing the miniature models and stuff. They did a pretty good job. I mean, all things considered. I mean, shit, this was 1978. But yeah, apparently what they did is they taped a picture of her on this creature, did some shots, and then when they were doing, I guess when they do the dailies, Scheimer saw it on the test cuts and freaked out.
When that thing started roaring in the show, I was thinking, am I watching He-Man? That's Battle Cat.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. Filmation recycled sound effects, all kinds of sound effects. They recycled voiceover actors, because you can hear in Jason Star Command when Dragos would be talking to somebody on the other end of his communication. It sounds just like some of the stuff you would hear in He-Man, other voice actors. So he was using the same voice actors and stuff in over multiple different franchises during their time there. So yeah, it was quite interesting. And all the sound effects, the music, everything like that was like reminiscent of the Star Trek animated series as well. And all the way through to He-Man. Interesting stuff. Now here's my favorite villains, the henchmen, and I've nicknamed these guys the Red Spaghetti Monsters. Because they look like just a walking spaghetti.
Yeah, I suppose so.
I mean, it's kind of hilarious. I mean, as a kid, kids, it's something different. It's something spooky, whatever. But it's kind of comical, obviously, when you see some of the quote unquote fight scenes and running around and things like that. It's quite amusing, especially if you had a couple of beers. And then here we got some of the ships, and you have now. There's a thing in here that I was reading about the ships. About the ship. So there was a reason that all of Drago's quote unquote ships that he'd send out to attack were all drones. They were all computer operated drones. And that was because, of course, Saturday morning. Hex Allen Comics in the chat. Thank you for coming in. Yeah, it's a cool show. But yeah, they did that on purpose to make these guys drones because of Saturday morning. It's kids. So if they blow up, no one's getting killed. and they had to do that. They had to make sure that they weren't doing anything um, too violent. I
right,
mean,
yeah,
the most violence you got is if someone fell down or
yeah,
they did like small scuffling and stuff like that. That wasn't really, but it was made for kids. So,
yeah,
but we have a
yeah,
drone ship here, one of the many drone ships you see in there, and here on the bottom on the left you see the Starfire, which was Jason's main ship, and it's split into two pieces. At the front, which is I don't know the practicality of it, but the front nose of the ship had the detachable escape pod.
that's right, yeah,
So I don't know how practical that was, but that's what that is, and that's called a Starfire. And this ship was a Seeker, and it was only seen once in the entire series, and it was in the episode where they had to find the guy, or they found the guy that was in a different uh, dimension, or so to speak. And so, but this was one of
yeah.
the main ships on the 1977 Space Academy show. But you did see this once in Jason Star Command, but I thought I'd put that up there as well.
Hey,
Sure.
you
And we
guys
are
see that?
nearing.
Hey, go back
What's
to
that?
that. Go back to that.
Yeah.
You see what that is? That's a
Mhm.
Hoover vacuum. That's one of those handhelds. It's a handheld vacuum. And
I
they just
tell you
put
what, you're
they just
probably
put things,
not wrong.
yeah, and they just glued things from models and kits on it. If you look at it, it's a Hoover
Yeah,
vacuum.
yeah. Oh no, yeah, dude, you're not wrong, because there's another. Well, there was another TV show prior to this that Filmation did live action, and they only lasted 15 episodes as well, and they did that in 1977 as well, called Arc 2. And the front end of this looks almost just like the front end of the Arc 2 that they were, and it was basically a glorified RV, but the front of it looks kind of like the front of that ship. So they may have designed the ship, this ship, to look kind of like that. But yeah, I don't, yeah, Hoover vacuum. I wonder if it has a nice tight brush. References to the lost stream.
God damn it.
But yeah. So yeah, that was the ship, the Hoover ship. And so this is the final frame, Jason of Star Command. Now this is off of I think a CD or DVD, I think. But yeah, it's was a cool little series, 28 episodes. And again, so like where's it at here? My notes. So in the first season of Jason of Star Command, it were 15-minute segments. Like I said, they were a serial type from the old movie serials, shorts like Buck Rogers and Flash Gordon of the 30s and the 40s, where they were, you know, uh, cliffhangers at the end and things like that. Then they went to, after that, they went to, and they classified the episodes as chapters,
That's right.
not episodes. So there's a Playboy bunny. The Playboy bunny. Yeah, she looks nothing like what she did in the episode. Like I said, they dressed her down big time, purposely.
Yeah.
Now I know she was an actress, comedian, and model, obviously. But yeah, they dressed her down hardcore. There's no no getting around that. And she was also a very petite young lady as well. So it's a shame I don't know more about that Tabitha chick. Man, I can't get this thing to go backwards fast enough. I don't know.
Say please.
Yeah, I know. Say please. So yeah.
I might have some answers to your questions, Wookie.
What you got?
Well, I told you I've never seen this show, but after I didn't get into season 2. I got into a little bit of season 1, but
Yep.
it answers some questions. So I got some things here. Maybe took some notes. Like it's good. So let's start with Space Academy, right? Because it'll go into it. The reason I noticed that they were kind of involved, I wasn't really paying much attention. Just like it was kind of strange. It was the ship, the chairs in the ship. They were the same leather one arm lift.
Yes.
Yeah. Are they all using the same props? And I know this sounds. And what I noticed is if you pay a lot of attention to the shows, the editor sucked. You can see scenes where you can see parts of the wood structures, or you see.
Yeah, there was some. Yeah, exactly.
In the first episode of Star Command, you see people's arms when he opens up the door. There's other people's shadows. And I did have a question. Maybe you can answer this. Does he have superpowers? I'm just curious. Like, does he have any? Like,
I had thought he did
powers?
because he was supposed to be. Yeah, I mean, he was bending steel and.
That's what I was saying.
That. You'd think that he busted through a door, not once but twice.
Yeah,
right. So but I didn't see anywhere where they described or said anything about him having any superpowers.
Yeah, exactly. I think it was kind of implied.
It was maybe just one of those things that it just looks cool, him busting through the door.
I think
it doesn't make sense, but it's just like, let's have him charge through the door and rescue the damsel.
Remember, the paper thin metallic door. You say that again.
Yeah.
Also
would with
because he knocked on it and it's like, wow, that's the solid steel. And it just explodes into
it explodes into many steel. Pieces and to many pieces.
And the one thing I couldn't get over on Space Academy, and this was just a personal thing. There's an Asian kid on that show, and he was the guy on Police Academy, and I could not get his voice in Police Academy out of my head, because when he talks on the show, he sounds like a fragile woman, but I could not get that voice in my head of that like.
Is that Nogata from Police Academy?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
I couldn't get it out of my head, so I couldn't even pay attention what the hell he was saying. I just kept going back to Police Academy, so it ruined everything in that show, And okay, so Professor, what was it? EJ
Parsifal, okay. Charlie Dell.
So after I saw just by looking at the guy there, that guy hung himself. He's in some closet right now. That's why you can't find any information. That guy's dead. Okay, so that being said, I know why they changed the characters in the second season. You ready? Okay. Now let's just go to plots. So in the first episode, Professor EJ gives Jason the little robot, right?
Mm-hmm. Wiki.
And he puts it in his back pocket by his ass, right?
Yeah.
Hear me out. So in one of the scenes that, by the way, there's a lot of homoeroticism between EJ and fucking Jason. Like it really was. Like EJ was like, "Can I come with you? Oh, I can't wait to be by your side." There's some weird shit. Again, it's a kids show. But, okay, so this is
I
why
think
I
it was
that.
mostly camp. I think it was mostly meant to be campy and not meant to be.
Well, somebody lost their job because of it. So Jason of Star Command violated some policies because what he did was he wiped his ass, right? And then he goes and he presses it up against EJ's face and he says, "Thank you, buddy," and he walks away. Now, Jason thought it was okay because of the tendencies that EJ was showing them, right? But EJ felt uncomfortable. So what EJ did was EJ reported, hear me out. So EJ reported that to the Equal Opportunity Space Command office, right? And he told them that Jason of Star Command did something inappropriate. So guess what happened? They had to transfer him to Space Academy, and they had to move the guy from Space Academy over to Jason of Star Command, hence explaining why there's a new character in season 2.
Yeah, but
what?
That didn't explain Dr. Parsifoot's still in season 2.
Oh no, he's good.
Yeah,
he didn't do anything. Hold on, screaming kid.
I know. I hear him. So, but yeah.
Anyways, overall, I enjoyed it. It was good and just got me into some other deep stuff, and I'm looking forward to getting to season 2. So I mean,
Yeah,
I
it's
like
good.
season 1, but I mean, does it get better or does it get worse?
Right.
I don't know.
It's different because it's not
Yeah.
serialized like the first season. Hey, give me a second. I gotta walk away for a second. I'll be right back.
Oh.
It's just you and me.
All right. We can talk about him now.
Yeah, you know.
Yeah, I enjoyed the show. I mean, I didn't see the Space Academy, but I basically binge watched most of it yesterday.
Yep.
You know how it is.
Oh yeah.
I don't have a
But yeah,
life, so all I can do is watch the shows on YouTube.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I feel about Wookiee. But don't say stuff like that, Quill,
Yeah.
when he gets there, because I gotta tell you, he's not gonna like it.
What?
Oh,
But
nothing.
no, so yeah, the first season was originally presented in a 16, 15-minute, chapters with scenes from the previous week, ending with cliffhangers, and then scenes from the next installment. What's going to happen. And when they aired it in later foreign syndication, because the first season was only 15-minute episodes, so in the 1990s when they released it to foreign syndication, what was done was that all the first season segments, they combined them into 8 half-hour episodes. So with the first half end credits and the second half beginning credits being removed, they kept the chapter title scenes, and the scenes for the next week's episode were also left on there for the one episode. Then they were the new 30-minute episodes, but the second season was done in 30-minute, and it was done episodically. So, like with the first season, they were all chained together. It was a series. Okay, it was a serial type deal. And season 2 was done 30-minute episodes only. So the only constant was Drago was doing something, you know. But yeah. Yeah, the I was just reading this thing here for season 2. I still couldn't get over the fact that there was like a quote unquote secret section of the Space Academy that housed Star Command. That kind of like
Yeah.
was a plot hole. It didn't kind of like jive. But how could you hide something like that and you're being attacked? You'd think the rest of the place would find out about you're being attacked.
One would think, yeah.
Yeah. So, but wasn't a bad look. I'm going to start watching the Space Academy just to see what's going on. They did refer to, I think, in the first episode, maybe even the second episode, of the base being called Space Academy.
In fact, I think
I think Drago. Yeah.
You will see the destruction of Space Academy, or words to that
Yeah.
effect. You know,
Drago. Yeah. His comment to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, if you guys are interested, all these episodes are available on YouTube, so you can watch. That's where I was watching them last night.
That's what I was watching.
Yeah. You can watch the whole thing on just a couple different channels where they have all the episodes, all 28.
Yeah. That's what I did.
I also threw a link on the chat. So if anybody's interested in watching a Jason the Star Command, it's in your
I'll tell you one thing that kind of was annoying about the second season, and it's purely just pet peeves with me, is the fact that the episodes were a bit longer, and then the adverts came on YouTube.
Yeah.
I got through the majority of the first season without any adverts popping up, but obviously it's because it's just longer. Stupid adverts.
Yeah. So the series, this is something weird about Saturday morning cartoons. A lot of the live action stuff, especially when they had contracts with like CBS and whatever. So they did the Saturday morning lineup, if you will, depending on the station, or like it was ABC, CBS, NBC, and everybody had their Saturday morning kids stuff, cartoons, live action shows, whatever it could be. Now, Filmation, I was finding out doing research on this, Filmation had a lot of different properties. and they had done live action kids programming and cartoon at the same time throughout the 1970s and into the 80s. So they had a couple of different blocks, if you will. They had the first one, the first block that like Space Academy and Jason Star Command was on. Where the hell is the name of it? But I think it was here we go. So Filmation would later, season one, which was a segment. Okay, so season one was featured in a segment or a block called Tarzan and the Super Seven. Okay, this is where the Tarzan animated series was that I watched all the time. And the series was done in the movie serial style. The second season was a standalone half-hour series. Filmation would later revisit the serial format with both their renditions of The New Adventures of Flash Gordon and The Great Space Chase segments in their New Adventures of Mighty Mouse and Heckle and
No.
Jekyll.
So
right. They would rename some of these blocks. Now, in some of these, when they do these Saturday morning stuff, say for instance, like when they were done with Jason Star Command, as far as new episodes, they're done with new episodes in December of '79. So they would still run all the old they would just cycle through everything the next year. So they'd still run. You'd still see all those episodes the following year throughout the year in those blocks, whether it's the Tarzan Super 7 block or the Superhero Power Hour, whatever it is, or this, that, and the other thing. And they did that with everybody. So Filmation had their block of stuff. Croft Superstars and the Croft Entertainment people had their stuff. So you had Warner Brothers had their stuff, and Hanna-Barbera had their stuff. And so you had a bunch of stuff, and like Croft, like the Croft Superstars, was mostly live action and puppets. So, and Jason Star Command was the last live action that Filmation did, but it's still run for almost 2 years because on the internet you can find it where the seasons, it'll say it ran from 1978 to 1981. Well, no, it actually ran from 78 to 79. Anything after that was just reruns on whatever cartoon or kids programming block for a Saturday that they had. And Jason Star Command first season was on at 8:30 in the morning on Saturdays. And then it got moved to 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Sundays to a different block. And then they brought it back in the 1980s, back in the Saturday morning slot with their new, whatever it was, whatever they coined that block of programming for, like the adventure, the New Adventures of Flash Gordon, whatever, or the Tarzan and the Super 7, whatever. Because a lot of the cartoons were short anyway, too. They were 15 minutes or so, provided the commercials in them. But so yeah, I would see these, back in the day with the other television shows, and even like I said, through the 80s, through like 81 and stuff like that, and then they started taking out most of the live action stuff. They kind of just got rid of it, went back to cartoons on a lot of stuff. But it's quite interesting to do research on that because you find the connections where some of the props and some of the stuff they used, and it was the late 1970s was sci-fi crazy because you have 1977 obviously was the epicenter year because the epicenter of it for the late 70s because Star Trek came out in 1977 in May of 1977, summer blockbuster. Everybody went sci-fi crazy, right? At the same time in 77, you had Filmation put out Space Academy in 77 in September of 77, but they were shooting after Star Wars came out. Okay. So they knew the hype, they knew the enthusiasm and the want. Everybody wanted sci-fi, space. So they came up with Space Academy, and they also came up with Arc 2. And both of those programs ran at the same time in 1977. Then in 1978, they came out with Jason Star Command to take kind of over as a spinoff for that same part of the year, September through December. Well, in the same year, 1978, the Jason Star Command came out, what else came out? Battlestar Galactica, and in Europe and England, Blake 7. That was their first seasons. So Battlestar Galactica came out in the States, and Blake 7 came out in England the same year.
Wow.
So you have all these, coming, and you have Jason Star Command come out and in 78 and through 79. And then, lo and behold, you have the Star Trek movie in 79 comes out. And, and then again in 1980, you had Empire Strikes Back comes out. So basically, you're looking at all the sci-fi stuff started roughly mid 70s.
Yeah.
Filmation also did live action starting in 74. And this was a good block because if you've ever saw the show, you'll know why. There was 2 shows that they did. One was a Marvel character, obviously, Shazam or Captain Marvel.
Oh, wow.
So that was a live action show for 3 years, from 1974 to 1977. Okay.
Wonder if I
And
saw
look that up. Yeah, look, that's a good show. But then they had crossovers with that show and another live action filmation show called ISIS.
Oh, I've heard of it.
Yes. And so, yeah.
I saw ISIS last night, as a matter of fact.
You did?
Yes, I did. Yes, my wife really likes ISIS.
Yeah, that old 70s TV show, right?
Yeah, it's not bad. It's pretty good.
Yeah, they definitely got the right looking actress for that.
Yes, they did.
But so those were crossovers, and those were filmation as well. So they of course they were in the comic book stuff. As far as and then ISIS had a comic book as well in there somewhere. I don't know if Marvel did it or whatever. But of course, DC had Shazam / Captain Marvel, and then of course ISIS had that character They brought that character to life later in the 70s, and then they got into then right after that. So you had superhero stuff, right?
Right.
And then you had the space stuff. Started basically the epicenter was 1977. That's when everything, all the sci-fi and space stuff, just exploded. Like I said, with Star Wars in the summer of '77. And they were filming. They came out real quick with Space Academy and other shows, and of course there was other companies as well that were doing sci-fi well before that, But still, and then all the reruns. I think the late '70s or '70s was like the rerun king because you were still watching Batman and Robin from the '60s. You were still watching Star Trek from the '60s. You were still watching Lost in Space, and Land of the Giants and Voice of on the Sea, all in the '70s.
I saw them in the '80s as well, so it was still
exactly.
around.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because people wanted sci-fi. People were into the sci-fi stuff. And so, but the real epicenter of it was, in my opinion, was the '70s. It was 1977 when Star Wars hit the scene. Everything just exploded.
Yours truly was also born in 1977, by the way.
I was 8 years old.
It was a good year.
Yes, it was a good year. It was a good year. Another show that came out, which was also a filmation production, live action, was the TV show The Planet of the Apes. There was a TV show, and it had new characters, and Roddy McDowall was in it as one of the gorilla guys, but he looked exactly the same, but his name was different. So he supposedly played a different character, but he looked identical. It was an identical character. Just they used a different name. And so that came out, I think, in 74 or 75, and it lasted 1 season. But that was a primetime show. It wasn't really a kid's show because there was a lot of violence and whatever and stuff in that. But yeah. Buck Rogers. Yeah, Abby, someone. Buck Rogers came out, like, I think in 78. Or 79, actually. Came out after Battlestar Galactica, I think, had finished. I believe.
Yeah.
I think it came out in 79, probably close to 1980, and that lasted 2 seasons. But yeah. I'm not specifically sure, but I know that Battlestar Galactica was before Buck Rogers, and they used a lot of the same props. Used a lot of the same props in Buck Rogers, like some of the weapons and
Sound
like that.
effects, yeah,
The
sound
sound
effects,
effects,
all that
some
stuff.
of the similar costumes, they would just alter them slightly
Yeah.
as they did, So, but yeah,
Well, I was going to say, I mean, Jason, when you see him on screen and the way he acts, he's got a bit of Buck Rogers in there, a bit of Flash Gordon in there. It's kind of
yeah,
cool.
you have kind of
Yeah,
that he gives that vibe because
yeah.
he's the hero, you know,
Oh,
and of
is that
course
what it is?
he's got the hair,
Yeah, he's got the,
he's
he's
got
got
the
the,
70s hair, you
yeah,
know. Uh, so yeah, but yeah, it was. I mean, of course, there's a lot of holes in it, but when kids are watching it, kids don't notice any of that stuff. You only notice it when you're an adult. And
yeah,
like I said, going back over it as I did, it just you could tell all the plot holes and like I said earlier, it's not that I'm talking ill of James Doohan. It's just it seemed to me personally that the first few episodes of him doing that role, it didn't really seem like he was putting a lot of effort into it, really, to be honest.
yeah.
And then later on in the series, then he got better, basically, in my opinion. But before that, it was kind of like, I don't know,
Yeah.
kind of off. Where when John
Oddly,
Russell came on the scene, as the new commander, it was like,
whoa. Hmm.
yeah, he was a completely different character,
Hmm.
obviously, different character, different actor, different human playing the role. So,
I
yeah,
really liked his character. I really did. Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
He was
yeah,
kind of straight. He was kind of straight. But there was a
yes,
few times
very
he would
strict.
a few times he would say something funny. And what was it? There was
Hmm.
that episode. He says and does something completely off the book, and he says, "Well, I will remind you about that." And he says, "I will deny it."
Yes,
And that was funny. I love that one. And then he
yeah,
smiles.
yeah,
That
exactly.
was great.
But my favorite character obviously is Sid Haig because
Oh
his he just acted so well. It
yeah,
didn't matter what the scene was. He made you believe it. You know what I'm saying? He made you
mhm.
believe he was the villain.
He
And he was
just
so good
he
at
did.
doing that.
He just
He
stole the
believed in
show.
the role. I mean, you could tell he was selling it big time from
Yeah,
start to finish, with the ha 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 ha, I will crush you or whatever,
it
and
was that
destroy the
episode.
space economy.
It was that episode. Remember, he has all those holographic doubles, and they all do the
Yeah.
laugh. It was
Yeah,
funny.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah, that was great, you know. Oh, yeah, and talking a laugh, speaking about a laugh, there was a scene where oh, what the hell? I'm gonna try to pull it up here individually. Um, there was a scene. Where are you? Oh, I can't find you. Wait, here we go. There was a scene when Peepo was possessed by him, and
Yeah.
he's taking over the place, and he has that ha 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 laugh. That's like that laugh. It was like I started busting up because it was so fake, but it was just funny. You know, they're laughing. I'm going, what the hell, dude? They even did the laugh. Ha ha ha. Like that. The freaking robot. Oh God. But yeah, there was yeah, it was not a bad show. Like I said, there was a lot of plot holes in it. It had a great group of actors. Like I said, Charlie Dell played Parsifal. He was the comedy relief. you know,
Yeah.
of the thing. And of course, Jason Craig Littler was the hero. You
Mhm.
know, yeah, it was kind
Yeah.
of weird because when I was thinking that they would kind of explain why he had some quasi superhuman strength or something. You know what I'm saying? And then it never came through,
Yeah.
unfortunately. Um, but
I don't
it was
know.
a good series nonetheless. I think they could go. I don't. They shouldn't. I don't know. I'm kind of like on the fence. Oh, they could go back and fix it, or they could go and
Yeah. That's
do nothing. But
it's
I
a
think
shame
it's
there.
I think it's good the way it is.
Yeah,
You
it's a
know.
shame there was maybe not a little bit more money behind it, but yeah, it
Yeah,
was good.
they're doing kids programming, so they're not getting a whole lot of
Yeah.
stuff. And I mean, back
Yeah.
then, if they were getting advertising, obviously at that time, advertising in the '70s, and Saturday morning was either cereal, kids cereal, kids snack foods like Hostess and Dolly Madison, because at the time Dolly Madison was its own company and they had zingers, and until Hostess bought them out. But they had, snack foods, they had cereals, they had toys. So that was amazing, the commercials that they were having in between these runs, or they'd have like a little blurb about the upcoming new block of stuff that airs at a different time on that channel, but very kid centric. And you have to understand that kids back then was basically 13 and under.
Mm-hmm.
That's not like 4, 5, 6, 7-year-olds. You're looking at the kids that were like preteen, just barely, or just like 13, 14 years old that were watching this stuff, too. That's, they were either watching this, playing music, or out riding their bikes, getting into trouble.
Yeah.
There was no internet.
Was there not? I didn't know that.
No internet, none of that, no cell phones. So, but yeah, it's good stuff. What do you think, Willie? I know you deep dived some of it.
I gotta tell you, it just all seems to smell like a Goodwill, like a secondhand store. I mean,
Yeah.
Isn't it? Look, I love this kind of stuff because to me, it's more campy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is
kind of campy.
Yeah.
It's a little quirky. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's a time when you can just sit back, relax, just watch. Watch something that there's absolutely no agenda on. That you can just enjoy something, and that's it. And if you want to laugh and make fun of it, you can.
Oh yeah, exactly. Now, go ahead.
Hold on. It brings up one thing though. We talk a lot about all these older shows and all this stuff, and we never even have an opportunity to talk about anything new because it's all shit. And it's very
unfortunate.
It is unfortunate, and it gets to a point where like you have to decide. Like for example, Doctor Who. You have a bunch of people who follow Doctor Who, love it.
Oh yeah.
In the United States, it's not that much of a big following because that's something that for me personally, it wasn't something that was introduced. That's like there's certain shows that I follow that probably wasn't very big there.
Yeah.
So I watch a lot of streams. I watch a lot of guys talk, and they're talking just of the older stuff, of the older stuff, of the older stuff. And my question, and when I watch this stuff, you become a fan. But at what point, when I watch this, I become a fan. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And there's a chance that this will never be remade again. Nobody will ever touch this.
Yeah.
But with shows like Doctor Who, what's going on with that?
Yeah.
I guess my question is at what point do the fans walk away?
Very good question.
You're seeing it. You're kind of seeing that, you're seeing that. You've seen that with a lot of franchises, really.
You have so many people that are so blindly loyal to these franchises that they're just like, as long as I get it's almost like if you look at an addict, they just want a little taste to fill the need that they've always had, But I mean, what do you think? I guess my question is what do you think is going to take for the fandom to just say, I mean, look, we did it with Star Wars. We destroyed a franchise. Every fan destroyed Star Wars. We store fans, but we proved that we're not going to take it. You know what I mean? Everything they make is just down the toilet, down the toilet, down the toilet. And the other day, I haven't got a chance to look at it, but I guess there's a new Doctor Who movie coming out. Is that correct?
The final one, yeah.
Something about a movie for
in
Doctor
October,
Who
sometime in October or later this month. So is it the holiday special? Isn't it?
Right, yeah.
That's the last one with Jodie in it. That's when she supposedly is transitioning.
Oh, I thought they would probably gone that route instead of the route they went. Maybe I could have accepted a transsexual Doctor Who. At least then we could just
regenerates. Supposedly, yeah.
But I mean, when is this? When do you think? I mean, do you think people will just?
You're seeing it now. Honestly, you're seeing it now. You're seeing it. You're seeing the rejection now. Of course, there's people out there the quote unquote normies that they're
So here's
they're
a question. Ready?
some of them are younger. They don't understand some of the canon or lore or the longevity and the history of some of the franchises. But for the most part, that it's happening now. There are people rejecting it. I mean, if you look at here's the thing, when you look at the efforts of production companies or entertainment reporting entities that are basically running cover, that means they're deleting reviews, they're deleting comments, they're deleting downvotes.
Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Lord,
You're seeing
Ring.
all that happen there. You saw that with Star Wars. You saw that with Doctor Who. You've seen that with Lord of the Rings that's going on right now. You see that with Marvel and the current Star Wars stuff. Um, whenever you see them trying to be dishonest or run cover and try to cover up negativity to the degree that they're doing, now that should be a red flag to everybody. I don't care if you're a normie or a super fan. But the super fans, the ones that actually give their money to go buy a ticket or go out to the store and buy the merchandise for that movie or that franchise, and they see that shit, they stop. They stop spending their money. They close their wallets and they say, "I'm not interested. I don't want to support that," because they see it. It's the normies that take the longer because they don't really understand, especially younger people who've just discovered the franchise and like, "Oh, this is cool," and they don't see it necessarily. They don't understand what they're looking at. And then at the very end, then they realize at the very end, they're like, "Oh fuck, this is stupid," you know.
But there's
you're seeing it with
a good Tyrion Lannister quote that I've seen going around. And that says, if you cut a man's tongue out, you're not proving him a liar. You're proving you're afraid of what he might say.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And and that's why the Lord of the Rings is just going down in flames. This Ring of Power thing is just going down in flames hardcore. And Amazon, Google, everybody's trying to run cover to hide the numbers, to hide the real true what's going on because they're afraid.
Yeah. From what I hear, the House of the Dragon is better.
Yeah.
Who would have thought that? Who thought that? Who would have thought that?
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of people are reviewing that. I've seen that. They enjoy that.
I'm not watching any of it. So.
There's other. Yeah, I haven't watched it.
So that's a
I
good
don't
point.
have
Ready? Here's my second part of that. You ready? So they see how everything's been bombing, right? Okay, let's go Star Wars, Marvel. Let's just take three franchises. Let's go Star Wars. Let's go because we've been talking about Doctor Who, and Marvel, right? Now they go back to the original formula that made them popular, made them what fans adore, right? Do you go back?
I don't know.
You know what? That's a tough question.
Do you go back to the franchises? Because I stopped watching all this stuff once after, like Marvel, I stopped watching after Endgame. There are tons and tons. There are tons and tons of Star Wars. I think I watched the very first one of the which was the the minute that they stabbed Harrison Ford, I was done. I didn't watch anything because I was like, what's the point? Right. You have taken one of the most beloved characters and have killed them for no reason.
Well,
no reason. It wasn't filling a plot point. It wasn't doing anything. It was, to me, it felt like it was shoehorned in to just take Harrison Ford off the movie.
Probably
because he didn't want to act that anymore.
When we arrived at The Last Jedi, it wasn't even touched upon. So you know, they did the subsequent movies essentially degraded his death. They did nothing with it.
Yeah.
They could have done something with it. It was a shit way for him to die, but even then they did nothing with it.
It could have been a whole circle of, you know what? I killed my father. I now have resentment, and at the end, he could have used his flint. You know, anybody could have been on the Force. Maybe freaking Han Solo was a Force guy, and now he sees his dad hanging out with Yoda. I mean, I guess do you go back to these franchises? That I mean, we all love these franchises, but after all this backstabbing and just spitting on the fans, I mean, it is
Yeah,
blatant that they just
absolutely.
spit and said, "Fuck you." You're and not
Yeah.
just that. They said, not only are you going to like the stuff that we push at you, you're going to watch it, and we do not care. You know, we were so confident that you people are such sheep that you'll
Mhm.
watch it. And I mean, you're right; it's showing. But if they change it, do you think would you guys go back?
Well,
My answer is no.
I
I wouldn't go back.
I don't think. Yeah, I think it would be hard to go back. I mean, here's a case in point where they just they just really jacked up the lore and everything. When Han Solo frickin' died at the hands of his own son, Abby, someone says, "Where's the Wookiee rage?" I mean, he lost his best friend slash brother, and he saw it happen. He just,
That's what I'm
where is that?
saying. Yeah,
They didn't adhere to any of that lore at all. They just did, well, whatever, you know, and
Well,
so yeah.
and here's another one. Okay, I'm sorry, Crow. Go ahead.
I was going to say, in terms of my going back, what I would have to see is the same thing that's it's always been with me, and that is that there's plenty of evidence out there that there's something that the fans can pretty much collectively get behind, because there's always going to be people pissing one. But generally speaking, a relatively united fan base and goodwill coming from the studios that produce Star Wars, Star Trek, these things. And that's still a big if. I think it would be a case of going back with these eyes wide open, because they could easily just flip it back again. That's the thing. They want to push this narrative. There's a social restructuring at play here, and it's being forced into entertainment. It's propaganda for it. So
I mean, do you
Yeah.
feel that, like, the way that I see it too? I mean, I mean, you brought up a great point. We now look at movies through a different perspective. We used to be able to sit down, just all disbelief out. Let's just enjoy a movie.
Yeah,
Nowadays,
just have a good time.
yeah. Nowadays, you can't watch a movie without seeing it through a different perspective.
I remember
That's the biggest issue.
there's some Canadian comedians that I used to have some of their cassette tapes. They were out of Canada. They're brothers, and they were talked about when they go to. I think they were talking about Return of the Jedi, and the joke was they were talking about sci-fi and stuff, and they're like going to the movies. They said, "I want to go to the movie. I want to go to the movie. I want to get drunk. I want to get stoned and have George Lucas fuck my head." I mean, yeah, it's like, fuck my head, Star Wars. That's all I care about. Take me away. The fantasy world, They don't want to live in reality. We don't want to hear about, BS politics or anything else. We want to be, we want to have that escapism so that, we can decompress, enjoy what we're consuming. And then when it's done, we can go back and it helps you deal with the rest of the normal world BS.
Exactly.
And bless you.
Fuck you.
Whoever was sneezing
Sorry about
over
that,
there.
guys.
Bless you. So, yeah, it's
Well,
and then
this is it.
destroyed the escapism. Whether it's comic books, like if you like reading the text all books, you want books or comic books or graphic novels or manga. Watching old shows, watching new shows, TV, movie. They just media, the current modern media right now is being polluted on purpose, in my opinion. It's being polluted and destroyed on purpose.
Oh yeah.
And it's really sad and incredible to see it done in real time,
This is it. I mean, they're pushing all these current day politics into franchises. And since you mentioned Lord of the Rings, right? That's a completely fantastical world that would have its own reality and its own particular type of politics, etc., within it, not current day.
Yeah.
Hey, let's just lob that crap in there anyway.
Right. Well, yeah, here's something that someone says. He says, as far as Star Wars, if Lucas was brought back, then I may consider coming back. And I think a lot of people are the same way.
Yeah,
He should
Lucas.
personally, he should never have sold it. But
See,
that's
because, but you see, the way that I see that is like you're going back to like an abusive relationship. You know what I
Right.
mean? You had somebody that treated you like shit, all that time, and they try to sell you for something, and you're willing to go back just because at some point things were good. I mean, you can't award somebody. I mean, it sucks, and the way that I see it is, look at it like a relationship. You still have the good memories, and the good memories are the old episodes, the movies that we remember, and I think with these shows, we can expand on these shows. I mean, they've been going on for so many years. You know, there could be some type of different, spin-offs. I mean, not the shit that they're producing now, because how can they destroy Lord of the Rings? I mean, how can they?
Quite easily,
done
it
it.
seems.
How the hell? I mean,
quite easily,
right.
quite easily, apparently.
It's
Which is a
insane that they
shame.
just
But
took such a great franchise and just.
well, that was their intention. They
Well, this
never
is
had an intention to sticking to that lore. They never did, and obviously
is the-
that's evident.
This is
You
the
know?
thing, isn't it? I mean, like I said, there's this social reshuffling that we're seeing, and along with that, it's blatantly apparent that that's being thrown into the entertainment industry, and people who support these kinds of things are being hired on to write for these shows, and they don't have the skill or the ability to really write good material. That seems to be a common theme there.
Yeah.
But,
I don't think it's the. You know what? Maybe they can write material. I'm sorry, Crow. Maybe it's just that they just want to push the agenda, and so they don't.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about. I don't
Well-
think it matters what they write anymore. I think they probably have a list of things that they have to cover, and like you were saying, that's way more important than the story. You know what I mean? And they might be
Message.
very creative. Yeah,
message first.
exactly.
Yes.
But the thing is, though, the common theme I seem to arrive at, and this is just what I gather, because I'm not watching anything. I'm holding my hands up here saying, look, I'm not watching nothing. It's just that the writing seems to, slip. So I would imagine, and this is just me, that if somebody was relatively creative, then they could probably present the message in a better manner. But what would I know?
It's,
I'm just a 45-year-old moaning old fart. So
It's called a diversity hire. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
Diversity.
Oh, right, I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So, Abby, someone in the chat says that they need to stick with the storylines and keep the woke and gender politics out of the franchises. Well, we all know that, but that's not what they want to do.
No,
They're use these. They said it themselves. We're using these as platforms, as vehicles for the agenda.
That's what to say.
And
that's a way to say.
That's
because
been said by different studios, heads, stuff like that.
You don't see them creating something new and original.
They can't do that because it wouldn't sell. They have to take something
that's
popular.
That's my point. Yes, that's the point. They have to use something old. Star Wars, Doctor Who, Lord of the Rings, Star Trek.
Yep.
Big names, big, well-known. What could you consider them? Delivery systems. There you go. As a military.
Yeah, exactly.
Term.
A delivery system.
Delivery system.
Right.
See what I did there?
Well, here's the thing, though. And I kind of enjoy this.
Oh,
I have a sick sense of enjoyment over the fact that what's happening now at Warner Brothers.
Right.
With the guy Zaslav going in there with a freaking machete and chopping everything apart. Now there's some questionable moves he's made with not doing something to the Flash movie, but whatever. I don't know the whole backstory to that. That is whatever.
No, I haven't looked into it.
But everything else he's destroyed, and they've done that to see. Discovery Media bought Warner Brothers that owns CNN, so they just now announced that guy Don Lemon lost his show.
Oh no, Don Lemon's lost his show.
Yeah. He lost his show. He's relegating him to some weird time slot that was means nothing. They're doing it to Warner Brothers. You're looking at the stuff that they're doing for Warner Media and stuff like that, where they're cutting out, they ditched a ton of freaking cartoons from. They're ditching a lot of stuff from Netflix now. A lot of this cartoons that have been on for a couple seasons, and they're ditching them. because of their crappy agendas and other stuff and their cost overruns. And so they're doing it with Warner Media, and Zaslav's going in and he's scorched earth. He's just going in, like I said, with a machete and an axe and just everybody's fair
Yeah.
game.
Well,
He's firing them, relocating them. Doesn't matter. They're gone.
I forget who it was. I watched the video. It was the notion about go woke, go broke, and things like that. And
Yep.
it's just like when we see the likes of Disney is a very good example, because that's a
I'll be
monopoly.
back, boys.
Yeah, sure thing.
That's like a monopoly. They've got such a wide reach, and no doubt other ventures that go beyond just entertainment. Let's be honest. They
Absolutely.
They're not going to run out of money anytime soon, but smaller studios and other companies that don't have monopolies necessarily, like your Zaslav there, are probably being forced, not necessarily because they want to, but because they have to.
Right.
Make those kind of changes, because they maybe don't necessarily have all the financial backing and various different avenues that sees like an endless amount of money coming in. That would be my opinion, which is why we don't really see too much change within the likes of Disney, because they're swimming it. They're like Scrooge McDuck. They've got their money bin and it's not going anywhere.
Right.
So.
Yeah, exactly. And so I don't know. It's like hard to say when you come back. You know what? Let's put it this way. You know what? I remember when the when the sequel or the prequel trilogy came out that Lucas brought out, and there was everybody was excited about it. They were excited for it.
Yeah.
And I know that the first movie that came out, the Phantom Menace, the one thing that a sci-fi fan told me, it was actually a coworker who was a big time collector and sci-fi fan and loved Star Wars, loved the original stuff and stuff. And he told me, he says the only thing he didn't like about it, the Phantom Menace movie, was that the scenes were too choppy, and he meant choppy was okay. They'd be over here, and they'd cut the scene and they're somewhere else, and they cut somewhere else and go over here to this planet. They're over here to this place, and it's like back and forth all over the place. He said it was too choppy. He didn't not like it. He just said it was too choppy. But and then of course there was the big stink with Jar Jar Binks' character, and the thing was that nobody understood the whole part of role of what Jar Jar Binks was actually supposed to be. No one caught it. No one caught on to it. George Lucas didn't give you enough visual clues to figure it out. But Jar Jar Binks was supposed to be a Sith Lord in disguise, but nobody caught on to it until afterwards.
Yeah, we all have the Darth Jar Jar
after the backlash that he was getting for that character, because even in his strategy sessions when they were doing storyboarding, there's a documentary of him talking about Jar Jar Binks was the key to everything.
That's right.
And so, but he had to change all that because everybody was freaking out and sending in hate mail, and they didn't like Jar Jar Binks and blah blah blah. So he had to basically diminish his role and come up with something else. That's why the sequel trilogy really didn't feel complete, because you never really knew what the backstory, what the actual backstory was supposed to be. I think would have been more interesting. I really do. I think it would have been a lot more interesting if we'd actually figured it out and knew, and then he would have expanded on that for the next two movies. But he had to calm it down, tone it down, and get rid of the idea that Jar Jar Binks was actually the hidden Sith Lord. That was actually Darth Sidious's or Palpatine's actual master, who wasn't dead.
Okay, Plagueis.
Darth Plagueis, right.
Plagueis wise.
Well, there was a hint of it. There was a hint to that. I don't know if there was a scene in the second movie that Jar Jar Binks visited Senator Palpatine, who was actually Chancellor Palpatine or became
Yeah.
chancellor. And he came to visit him. It was just them two, and they were getting into a lift or something. And Palpatine said, "I'm very honored that you would come and see me." So think about that. What the hell purpose was that line for an ancillary character that was stupid? You know, they wouldn't have that line in there for something like that. So
I guess not.
the plot it just had to get changed because he got a lot of backlash because Jar Jar Binks was overly made to be a fool. You know, it was a fool character. So the comic relief, so to speak. But it worked too well.
Well, he
You
did.
know,
Jar Jar did indeed allow the Senate to get the emergency powers, and he voted on
Yeah,
Queen Amidala's
exactly.
behalf. So, go!
Yeah, exactly. Right, exactly. That was yeah, part of the underlying thing. He was trying to be Darth Plagueis and being the sinister phantom menace.
Yeah.
So I wanted to go back real quick.
Wait a minute. Can we go back on that for a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so let's go a little bit on the lore, right? Jedis, you can have a bunch of Jedis, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, but you could only have one Sith Lord, correct?
One Sith. Two
You can
Sith.
have there's only
Two?
two at any one time. The
Okay,
master and the
so
apprentice.
right. So where did Jar Jar Binks fall into this if there was already two Sith Lords? Because it would have been Darth. So in the first movie, right? I'm going with the Jar Jar Binks series, right? It would have
Yeah,
been Darth Maul, right? And
Mhm.
Sidious, right? Am I correct
Technically,
in
Yeah.
saying that?
Technically, yes. But he
technically,
was but here's the thing. There was more than one Sith Lord at a time. If you read some of the other materials that
Well-
are out there, some of the other books and stuff like that.
But I thought I'm just saying am I wrong in that in the lore there's only two Sith Lords at a time? That's
Yes.
what
Right,
made
there
them
can
different.
only be two, a master and apprentice. But
With
Plagueis,
Jar Jar Binks in the mix, it would have been three. It would have been
yeah,
two Sith
but
Lords.
that's something.
and-
The idea, I think, the idea from going back, what I've seen and heard, the idea is that Darth Plagueis he faked his death. He was
So-
able to transfer his life essence into another being, which happened to be Jar Jar. So
But even
he was kind of like in hiding, and then Palpatine became his own,
Well-
his own Sith Lord, and got his apprentice, who was Darth Maul.
But if he could
Then-
recognize that Jar Jar Binks was, like you said, I'm honored that he knew he was a Sith Lord.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I'm just going based on is there Cual? Please explain, sir.
Yeah, before
Filling
I
the
do-
gaps here.
Now,
Before
there's
I
there's
do-
different lore that there's added in the expanded universe in the books and other comics. There's actually more than two Sith at any one time that are exposed. There was several different occasions that occurred, but as far as the Jedi were concerned, there was never more than two at any one time. But it doesn't make any sense. There has to be more somewhere. So
Before I say anything, I would like just to say, hello, Time Prophet.
Holy shit! Is he on the chat?
show up.
Oh,
He has arrived. Where you been?
he decided to show up.
Yeah. About time you showed up.
Yep. Well, anyway, in the Darth Plagueis in the Darth Plagueis novel,
Yeah.
obviously Palpy is going through his training, and during the events leading up to Phantom Menace,
Mhm.
Palpatine does indeed come across Darth Maul. He's on a planet somewhere, and a lady presents him with the baby, essentially, and he does start to train him, and Plagueis knows. And if I remember, I would have to read the book again, but I'm pretty sure he says something to the effect of he can never be a Sith Lord or something like that. Train him up, he could be useful, that kind of thing. So from that perspective, he probably wouldn't have been considered the Sith Lord. But the interesting fact is, since you mentioned Plagueis' demise in the novel, Plagueis is killed by Palpatine because they are celebrating their inevitable win, if you like. And Plagueis' drinking, I think, if I remember correctly, and he's not in the best shape because he's been through the wars, as you can imagine, and you know, Palpy wipes him out effectively, and it was quite interesting because there's a moment where Palpatine is staring out the window, and he's got this like sense of euphoria going through him. The Force is flowing through him, and all that, and he's dead. But at the exact moment that he does this, he feels the disturbance in the Force, and it's at that moment that Darth Maul is defeated by Obi-Wan in Phantom Menace. So
yeah, it's sorry, I was a little distracted by Cujo in the background over here. Somebody drove by in a truck. But yeah,
there's two Sith Lords, obviously.
Yeah.
And that is simply because having too many breeds infighting and things like that. It was the rule of two: one to embody the power and one to crave it. That's the
right. But there was probably others. There were probably others around, just incognito, just
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's
laying low without an apprentice, just the master who was like laying low because they didn't want to get killed.
Because there's lots of speculation and rumors about Count Dooku is technically not really a Sith Lord because he hasn't gone through the proper transformation. His eyes aren't yellow and all that kind of stuff, and there's a reason for that as well in some regards, because obviously he's technically looking at it from doing what's best for the galaxy. He's evil, don't get me wrong, and he's using the dark side, don't get me wrong, but it is more of a kind of self-serving, wanting the best for the galaxy type thing, as opposed to the Empress just wants to rule it all and absolutely annihilate everything. But there is a slight difference. It was the same with Mara Jade. If you've ever read any of the books with Mara Jade, she wasn't completely turned to the dark side because technically she was following the will of the Emperor, which is not her own.
Right. Yeah, she had she was under the influence, but really wasn't fully fully a Lord.
But that is, I would have to read that book again, the Plagueis novel. It's really good. I would recommend it.
I have to get my hands on that too.
You have muted your mic, Willie. Come on, Willie. Come on.
Sorry, guys. No, I'll tell you one of the stories that I really enjoyed on Star Wars, and I just looked it up right now. It's called I don't know whether it was called that, but it says The Opponent Who Scared Darth Vader to His Core, and the guy's name was Araku Tark, Awarru Tark. You guys ever read that comic?
Nope.
Okay,
no.
So long story short, Darth Vader killed this guy's entire family. And he spent his whole entire life getting like things done to his body so he could fight Darth Vader. And the comic is just about that, about their fight together, and how for the first time Darth Vader felt that he was going to lose. He really felt that. He never felt more rage. He felt the rage from this guy, and he said it was beyond his own.
Wow. Yeah,
and it's a very good comic book. I mean,
be interesting to check that out.
Actually, is this it?
Most definitely.
I mean, it's a very interesting comic. If you guys get a chance to look at that,
yeah, I'll have to check that out. Look that up.
Hey,
I know.
It is the great scene.
I'm gonna have to find that and put that in my collection.
You know, Time Prophet. I haven't been on I want to say a little message to Time Prophet. First of all, miss you, bud. Good to see you on the chat. I haven't been on the stream for a couple of weeks due to personal matters and stuff, and you just got to go right to the jugular, saying that Mr. It's finally cleaned his house. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Time Prophet. We always use a green screen method to clean the green. That's the fastest way to clean it, sir.
I know, right? Just cover it up.
Actually, let me see the other bedroom. I didn't know which background to go with today either, so I just went with this one. Thought it'd be good.
That's a cool one. Yeah, I like it. Yeah, he also says he doesn't bother with anything after Return of the Jedi.
Yeah.
I don't blame him. Don't blame him at all. But yeah, so
Okay, so
I-
Time Prophet, we didn't get a chance. You were here. Okay, question to you, sir. If one of your beloved shows gets all woke and everything, you don't like it anymore. If they go back to, I guess, original material and make it the way that you like it, do you return back as a fan? He will answer it honestly. Let's see. It's the Time Prophet.
let's see.
I'm very
What do you
curious
know,
of this
Time
one.
Prophet? What do you know?
My money says no. He's kind of the guy that if somebody pisses him off on, he's going to
He's
stick to his
probably sour just like all of us.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, yeah. Move
Yeah,
on to
we're all a
something
bit
new.
peeved and burnt out with all of it. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah. See.
they
He
never
won't go back.
to return.
He's done,
Yeah.
peeps.
Yeah, he's done.
Yeah. So here's something I wanted to cover real quick, going back to
Sid.
Sid Haig and his role as Dragos. So
Right.
interesting thing about his role as Dragos, because originally he was not the first pick
No.
to play Dragos. Originally, the role of Dragos was offered to actor Ted Cassidy,
Okay.
who was
That name
best
ring-
known as the butler Lurch from the original Addams
wow.
Family. In
That's what you
July
say.
1978, in a rare personal interview, Cassidy told how producers offered him the role, but because he had first refusals on a couple of other pilot movies, he was not able to give the producers a direct answer if he wanted to accept the role or not. When he finally got back to them, it was too late, as they had already given the role to Sid. The producers would have had to recast the role anyway, since Cassidy had died on January 16th,
Oh.
1979. So just think how, I don't know. Sid did a good job, but Lurch, because see, in a couple episodes where you see a full body shot of Sid in the suit,
Mhm.
he's wearing lifts. He's wearing
right.
boot lifts, so he could be taller or as tall as Craig Littler. So he was wearing lifts. Ted Cassidy was head and shoulders above any of these guys. That's why they
Oh, yeah.
wanted him. He was so freaking tall, and then his voice was
Yes.
just awesome. But yeah, so Ted Cassidy could have been Dragos.
I remember him in that episode of Star Trek as well. Yeah. Ted
Yeah.
Cassidy.
Oh yeah. Yep. So he did that. He also put on a Sasquatch suit, Bigfoot suit for the second appearance of Bigfoot in the Bionic Woman and $6 Million Man episodes. He was the second guy to wear that. I guess they couldn't get Andre because Andre was out of the country wrestling or something like that.
Yeah,
But,
yeah.
Andre did the first one. But yeah, so yeah, it's a shame that he died when he did. He could have done a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah.
He was big into cartoons in the 1970s. He was doing voice work for cartoon series, just like even in the 60s. He was doing Hanna-Barbera cartoons, voice work for them.
Yeah.
A lot of stuff. So I just wanted to put that in there as the last tidbit of information regarding
That would have been
Jason
interesting. That would have been interesting seeing him in that show. Even
As
if
Dracos?
even if it was anything else, it would have been pretty interesting him being in there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Jolly good.
What did he say here? Oh my God. So Time Prophet says that last one should have been Fantasy Island. No, he wasn't in Kill Bill. He was dead before Kill Bill. Oh no, that's right. Sid was in. Yes. Sid was in Kill Bill. Yeah, 2. He was in Kill Bill 2.
I'm gonna have to watch those. I've got them over there. I haven't seen them.
Sid was in that.
Yeah.
Yep.
WillyP, he looks like he's on Coruscant now. or somewhere thereabouts.
Came from space.
Yeah. Jolly good. I'm just sat in my room.
It's way easy. He's definitely right, Time Prophet, with the green screen cleaning. I don't have to do anything. I can put anything. I can be in a palace and I'm good.
Yeah.
It's great.
Oh, here
That's
we go.
great.
Time Prophet. He said he was also on the A Team and then Automan TV shows. He
What
played the
Sid
part.
Haig was?
Yeah,
I thought he
yeah.
was in an episode of the
Oh, yeah,
A-Team. I just can't think which one though.
A Team. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I remember him being in that.
Sounds about right. Yeah, he was in a lot of things like that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So let's
Ghost
see.
of the Shell.
I think
Yeah, thank you. Good call.
his answer here.
Who was in Ghost in the Shell? Oh, right, yeah, the
Yeah.
background, Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, finally got that finished, by the way. Finally.
How long
So-
did that take, by the way?
I know, I
Taking
think
a while, huh?
it's gonna keep
Literally
I kept having to stop to do things, and it's just and there was
Yeah.
some days I just wanted to just blow things up on my PlayStation and things like that. It's just like,
Yes.
and I
So Time
finally-
Prophet says
finally
that
started this today, and I got the first movie watched earlier, so it's just like
nice Nemesis. Nice.
Nemesis. It's the 4 films, and then I found out there's a
Nice.
5th one somewhere. So it's just like,
Nice. So yeah, Time Prophet says he hasn't watched New Who in 5 years,
yeah,
but he
don't
owns
blame him.
all 694 episodes of the real Doctor Who. I like that. The real Doctor Who.
Yes,
The
the real Doctor Who.
real Doctor Who.
We do things proper around here, don't we?
Yeah.
Proper. That's proper telly.
Proper. Yes, absolutely. Oh man. Well, I think it's about time to end this
Okay.
party. Yeah, we're pretty much
Party
done with that.
pooper, come on.
Yeah, I know. Yep.
Oh well.
But it's been a fun one.
Yeah,
So-
yeah. I've had a good time again, as usual.
Yeah, absolutely. So next Sunday, I'm gonna do a stream Saturday, but next Sunday I've got a stream later in the day at 6 p.m. with 32
right,
flavors
yeah.
of Nick Weiser. And
Okay.
so we're going to be talking about an old, he's into comics. We're going to be talking about an old comic book company that is no longer in existence. And they were specializing in hot rods called Hot Rod Cartoons comic book. I have one. Unfortunately, the cover is gone, but I have the rest of the magazine. And it's I think I got that. Obviously, I got that when I was a little kid, probably 4 or 5 years old. I'm assuming one of my brothers got it for me. And it used to have the cover. I don't ever know what happened to the actual, the cover. But I have the rest of the book. So there's awesome artwork in there from the 70s, late 60s. Cartoon car, hot rod, drag racers.
That's pretty cool, by the
all
way.
the freaking rat rods and stuff like that in cartoon form, with cartoon series. Yeah, it was a good book.
Those covers are beautiful.
Oh God, yeah.
As I'm looking at some right now. They are
Yeah,
nice.
called Hot Rod Cartoons. It was also Hot Rod Magazine, Hot Rod Comics, but this is specifically called Hot Rod Cartoons. It was they were out of LA somewhere.
Holy shit!
I think they started in '64. Was their first issue was in 1964. And,
hey, Wookie, does this guy do Ratfink?
I don't know. They may have. That may have been how they started. Was in the because these guys were artists, but they were car people.
Oh, he did Ooh, are we talking to this guy?
These guys. No, I don't have the guy. I mean, no. I'm just going to go over the comic book series.
I got you. I was going to say, shit. I'm going to get in touch with this guy.
Some of that comics look familiar.
Hot Rod Cartoons. You can now. I've seen some of the books for sale on eBay, but I see most of the pictures of the covers. But like I said, I don't know which issue I have because the cover is gone. I lost the cover years ago, decades ago. It's been gone. I just have everything else. I have the rest of the book. So I don't know how I'm kind of bummed that the jacket's gone, but I have the best of the book and it's in good shape. But there's a lot of great art in there. And they had different series, that they had one about the gas and stuff like that, and gas shortages and homemade hot rods and stuff like that. They had some characters that were basically the main characters in the Hot Rod cartoons were actually themselves, the people who the artists and stuff like that. That was there. They were parodying themselves, which is pretty cool. So we're gonna talk about that. I'm gonna do some research and pull some pictures off, and then I've got my book. I'm gonna have to take a look at because I took a lot of pictures of the book, and I sent them. This was like last year. I sent them to Elliot Rodriguez down in Peru. So I had sent him a bunch of stuff. So JWC Reviews, hey, welcome. We were just wrapping it up. We had a good stream about Jason of Star Command. So next week I'm doing 2 streams, one on Saturday. I don't really know the subject of that, but Sunday at 6 p.m. my time, I'm doing a stream with Nick Weiser. And Krill, you won't be able to make it because you'll be asleep.
I think that's about 2 o'clock in the morning or something like that. So I'll probably be in my bed by about then. I think.
What you going to be about, Willie?
I'm not saying I'll be asleep, but I'll be in my bed.
Yeah.
Just send the invite.
Just send the invite. Yeah.
Just send it. I'll be there. I enjoy the stream, so I'm gonna like we were talking about earlier. Just to put it out there, I'm gonna start doing some full-time streaming now, guys. So I'm gonna start putting, the dates and times. I'm gonna make sure I got you guys on there. What subject, whatever the hell we feel like talking about. That's all I'm gonna say.
Cool. Yeah. So hey, GWC Reviews, thanks for coming in. We did a segment on Jason of Star Command, the old late 1970s TV kids show. We did that. We did a little deep dive into that and some backstories on some of the actors and characters and stuff like that. So be sure and watch that on the rerun. We're going to be cutting it off here in just a minute. So since we're pretty much done.
What a world!
I can't talk that.
Yeah, JWC, it's on. You can find it on YouTube under Jason Star Command. There's a couple of different YouTube channels, and a couple of them have the complete series. It only lasted 2 seasons. There's a total of 28 episodes on there, and I think you might enjoy it. It has campiness to it because, of course, it's a Saturday morning kids show developed in the late 1970s. And it's a spin-off of a show called Space Academy as well. And they use the same props, sound effects, and stuff like that, and costumes in both series. But Space Academy only lasted 1 season in 1977. And Jason Star Command lasted 2 seasons. So 78, 79.
Would you consider it cheese?
Cheesy?
Yeah.
I think it's more campy.
Cheese.
I think it's more campy than cheesy.
Oh yeah.
Cheese, but good cheese, no?
Yes, it was good cheese. It was just enough. It was just enough. Yeah, Time Prophet in the chat's talking about Star Lost. I actually, when I was doing this research, I was watching some of the Jason Star Command. It came up on my recommended because I was watching the Jason stuff. So yeah, I watched a couple episodes of Star Lost. Okay. That's actually pretty good. Yeah, I'm gonna actually look at more of that on YouTube or wherever. He says it's on a channel on
Roku
Roku.
TV.
Roku TV. Yeah, it's on YouTube too. It looks pretty interesting. Pretty interesting. So yeah, 1974 is when it came out. He's saying so. Yeah, I'll look at that. Yeah. Oh man. So anyway, yeah. All right, everybody, we're gonna call it a day, and we'll be back next week. I'll send out what we're gonna do next Saturday for you guys, and then again Sunday I've got Nick Weiser on, and then we're gonna do over the Hot Rod cartoon comics with him. So see what's going. He does a stream, comic book stream with 3 or 4 different fellas that are big into comics. So they talk about old comics, but I think they're mostly like 1980s and 90s stuff, not 1970s and 60s. Like this. And this is kind of an obscure thing, so I think it'd be kind of interesting for him to learn about.
Yeah.
Anyway, again, thank you very much, chat, for being here today. All of you guys, the Time Prophet, Abby Someone, JWC Reviews, and there was another person who was in here. Yeah, Hex Allen Comics. Thanks for coming in. Thank you, everybody. Please like and subscribe and comment down below. And what I'll do is when we get off here, I'll hold on to this broadcast. I won't re-release it until I update the description. So it'll probably be later tonight when it gets actually, published on back on YouTube. So
Enjoy.
All right.
Enjoy the video.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. All
You guys
right.
have a good one, boys.
Everybody, have a great time. Enjoyed myself
you.
with everybody today, and we'll see
Thank
you
you
next
for having
time.
us.
Have a good weekend, everybody.